Hi there and welcome to The History Teacher. This revision video covers Weimar and Nazi Germany from the GCSE Edexcel 9-1 course. Hopefully you'll also find it useful if you're studying any of the other exam boards or if, like me, you just love history. I'm 100% self-funded, so if you like my content, please consider buying me a coffee to keep me going. As we saw in my last video on the Treaty of Versailles and the Dolchstoss, everything was far from rosy in the new Weimar Republic. The government was generally unpopular, but to those whose politics were at the extreme left or the extreme right, the government could not be allowed to continue. Challenges came from within the Reichstag and outside of it, and the early years of the Weimar Republic were far from stable. Politicians were afraid of assassination. This was a real fear because in the years 1919, 376 political assassinations took place. The vast majority of them were committed by those on the extreme right. Leaders lived in fear for their lives. Some assassinations took place in the streets, leading to public anxiety. Those who were caught were often given light sentences, as the judges in trials were generally sympathetic to the sentiments of the assassins. Political enemies of the Republic, especially those on the right, used the assassinations to undermine the government, saying they could not keep peace on the streets. There was also a number of attempted uprisings, or putsch, which aimed to overthrow the government and install one more favourable to the political views of the participant. We're going to focus on two of these attempts today. The first is an extreme left-wing rebellion, the Spartacist Uprising. On the 12th of January 1919, 50,000 members of the post-World War I Communist Party, known as the Spartacists, rebelled in Berlin, led by Rosa Luxemburg and Karl Liebknecht. Note that this was before the Treaty of Versailles was agreed, so they were protesting the Weimar government and trying to create a communist state rather than rebelling against the terms of the treaty. Newspaper and communication buildings were seized and the demonstrators armed themselves. The Weimar government was forced to call on military tactics to put down the uprising, and it turned to the Freikorps. The Freikorps were right-wing ex-army soldiers who hated the communists. The uprising was put down in the bloodiest of ways. 100 of the protesters were murdered, including Rosa Luxemburg and Karl Liebknecht, whose bodies were dumped in a canal. This created a hatred of the Social Democrats by the communists in Germany, which would have important consequences later. The second is the Kapp Putsch. This was a right-wing uprising organised by the journalist Wolfgang Kapp in response to what he saw as the betrayal of Germany in the Treaty of Versailles. On March 13, 1920, they seized Berlin and proclaimed that a new right-of-centre nationalist government was being established with Kapp as Chancellor. The takeover was so bad that the Weimar government were once again forced to relocate, this time to Dresden. This time, however, the government did receive the support of the people. 5 days into the Kapp Putsch, the president, Ebert, called for a general strike of workers, which was largely supported. Without workers to provide basic services, the putsch could not continue, and it failed. Kapp fled Berlin on March 17th. This showed the Weimar government that there was support for them, even if it was just to keep the peace. Okay, that is everything you need to know about the challenges from left and right. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave me a comment. I love to hear from you, and I always reply as quickly as I can. I'm 100% self-funded, so please don't forget, if you like my content, I'd really appreciate if you buy me a coffee to keep me going. The link's in the description. That's everything for today, and I will see you next time.